Hey guys.
Hello,
Hey Chris.
how are you?
Doing all right, man. How you doing?
Good. Switching over to earbuds.
Nice.
I'm
All
here too,
right.
Nick.
Hi Terry. Good to see you, man.
Yep.
Hey
All right.
Nick,
We'll give.
Kevin.
Hey Kevin. Good to see you.
Yeah, I
Hey
didn't know
Nick,
if we were supposed to be involved here personally or just watching, so uh, I can get remove my uh, picture, or what's the process to do that, or whatever you want to do.
Yeah. No. Love to see you guys on the video. Uh, Great segue though. Let me kind of explain what we're going to do here tonight. So, what I'd like to do is I'm going to do a little bit of training on man how to stick through, because one of the hardest parts of this process and finding healing and restoration in your relationship is man, you can't give up when things get hard. And so I'm going to walk through some things to help you guys stick it through, and then Chris actually is going to I'm going to ask him some questions, and he's going to share his story about what he's gone through and where him and his partner at this point now. So really excited for him to share his story, because hopefully that gives you guys some hope that are struggling and going through some hard times as well. So yeah, thanks, Kevin. And I think we'll go ahead. I'm sure we'll have a few more folks jump on here shortly.
hi Nick.
Hey, who was that? David?
Yes, sir.
Hey, David. Good to see you on here.
Thank you.
All right,
It's
I'm
good to
just
be here.
checking here. Okay, give me just a minute. I got a couple of guys asking where the link is, so let me send that out.
I went on the school thing, and under the calendar, that's where the link is.
Yep, yep. I'm glad you found it. There we go. Okay. All right. I think we're good now. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and walk you guys through a couple of things. And then, like I said, I'll turn it over to Chris. He's going to share, and then at the end, if we've got a little bit of time, I'd like to open it up for questions and answers. Hey, John, good to see you.
Hey, I'm glad I could make it.
Did you get a haircut?
No, I just got it
Something
all
looks
pulled back.
different.
Well,
This
it's
is
Okay,
still
tied back
it's still
tighter.
back there.
it's
This is
tied
tied
back.
back tighter.
All right. All right. Can you guys see that?
Yep.
Okay. Let's dive in here. So, again, the title of this is Do Not Give Up. Let me explain a little bit. Galatians 6:9 says, And let us not grow weary of doing good, for in due season we will reap if we do not give up. Now, if you're like most of the guys I work with, the situation that you're in could be really, really difficult. In fact, it might even be the hardest thing that you've ever gone through. And I can relate because I nearly lost my wife more than once. And I know what it's like to go through those hard times, to feel like you're being torn in half. And a lot of times, the men that I talk with, they get caught off guard when their wife asks for a separation or suggests divorce. But if you look back, you'll probably notice that she's been giving you some hints along the way. I know for me, like my wife, she would say things like, "Are you happy?" And I'd be like, "Yeah, I'm happy," and that'd be it, right? She wouldn't really say much more. there were a few times where she was like, do you think we could use some couples counseling? And I'd be like, nah, I think we're fine, you know? Well, we weren't. I just didn't recognize or realize how significant or severe things had gotten, especially for her. Now, maybe you've promised to change. Maybe you've tried to change a few times. Maybe you failed in that. And at this point, maybe she's given up hope because she doesn't think that it's even possible for you guys to reconcile at this point. And maybe you're asking yourself, is it even worth fighting for? Should I go through the work and the effort and the heartache to even fight for this thing? Now, I don't know if God will actually restore your marriage, but what I do know is that if you give up now, it'll be over. And as one of my clients has said, strong marriage is not built during easy times. It's built in the struggle. And so what you guys are going through could actually be an opportunity to build something even stronger than you have right now. Let's talk a little bit about why fight for it. Everything we do is biblically based. And so you'll see a lot of references to scripture, our course, the coaching, all of it is based in scripture because God's word is the most powerful thing that we've got. So Ephesians 5:25 tells us husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her. Now, if you hop over to Romans 5:8, it says, but God shows his love for us and that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. And then finally, those vows that you made, if you made traditional vows, they say to have and hold from this day forward for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health, to love and to cherish till death do us part. And so what all these verses and the vows, they describe this unconditional love. And that's the difference between a contract and a covenant, that what you made between your wife and God is a covenant. And the difference is that a contract is conditional. And it says, hey, I'm going to do my part as long as you do your part. But a covenant is different. A covenant is unconditional. And it says, I'm going to do my part even if you don't do your part. That marriage bond is supposed to represent the bond between Christ and us. And Christ loves us no matter what. He will never stop pursuing us, even when we don't love him back. That's the model we're supposed to follow with our wives, is we're supposed to love them no matter what. And that can be a really, really tough standard to live up to. Now, Matthew 19:3-6, it says, and the Pharisees came up to him and tested him by asking, is it lawful to divorce one's wife for any cause? And he answered, have you not read that he who created them from the beginning made them male and female and said, therefore, a man shall leave his father and mother and hold fast to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. So they are no longer two, but one flesh. What therefore God has joined together, let not man separate. And I'll tell you, like, this is why that separation can be so painful, is it is like you're being torn in half. There is a spiritual bond there between you guys. And when that gets separated, it hurts. You may be asking, like, what about adultery, right? So in 1999, it says, and I say to you, whoever divorces his wife except for sexual immorality and marries another commits adultery. So Jesus himself gives us this one reason. There's a couple other ones throughout the Bible, but this is the one that Jesus gives us, that in cases of sexual immorality. Now, there's some debate on that, but most Christians would agree that if there's been sexual immorality, you can divorce your wife. Vice versa, right? But just because you can, it doesn't mean that you should. And I think that there's some good biblical evidence that says that should be a last resort. Hosea Yeah, it's a really interesting book. It's a little hard to follow. It's Old Testament stuff, but in the book of Hosea, God commands Hosea to go and marry a prostitute. And her name is Gomer, which is an interesting name, but he marries her and she is unfaithful to him. And then God tells him to pursue her again. He says in Hosea 3:1, and the Lord said to me, go again, love a woman who is loved by another man and is an adulteress, even as the Lord loves the children of Israel, though they turn to other gods. You see, the Israelites, if you read the Old Testament, man, it's this constant back and forth where they'll turn to God and they'll praise him and they'll love him and they'll obey him. And then they turn their backs on him and they praise and worship other things, other gods. But God never turned his back on them. He never gave up on them. And that's what he calls us to do, which again is a really, really hard standard to live up to. So now I want to talk about how do you fight and how do you not give up? Because sometimes there will be times during this process where it's more than you think that you can handle. One really important thing is that you need to remember that you're fighting for your marriage, not with or against your wife. Ephesians chapter 6, 10 through 13 tells us, finally be strong in the Lord and in the strength of his might, but on the whole armor of God, that you may be able to stand against the schemes of the devil. For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the cosmic powers over this present darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places. Therefore, take up the whole armor of God, that you may be able to withstand the evil day, and having done all, to stand firm. That's a big part of it, guys, is this isn't just a fight against your wife, right? There's a real spiritual battle going on. And if you're not fighting the spiritual battle, you're going to get your butt kicked. So putting on that full armor of God every day is a really important part of that process. So now I'm going to walk through some things that you can do on a daily basis. And I'm kind of jamming through this. We have a lot of other modules and stuff that walk into these a lot more deeply. But these are the things that you can be doing on a regular basis to keep strong, to stand firm, and to fight that battle. So number one is you've got to surrender to God. If you rely on your own strength and your own willpower, you're going to fail. You have to humble yourself. And you have to enlist God in that fight. He wants to restore your marriage. But I'll tell you this, is that he before he works to restore your marriage, he's going to work on you first. He wants to restore your relationship with him first. And then he'll work on the marriage. Then he'll work on the relationship. Daily prayer. He wants to bless you. Again, he wants to restore you. He wants to restore your marriage. All he asks is that you call on him and you make your requests known to him. Daily Bible study. The Word of God is the most powerful weapon that we've got. I've got a handful of passages here. There's a lot of really good stuff in there, but these are like my go-tos. Galatians 6:9, which I read up above, Philippians 4:13, Ephesians 6:10 through 20. That describes the whole armor of God and how to do that. Worship. This is one that a lot of people miss. And I didn't realize how important worship was myself. It's a direct attack on the enemy. We could dive way into that and understand that. But basically, worshiping God means that we acknowledge and celebrate his power and perfection and gratitude. It's us saying, hey, God, you are powerful. We're grateful for you. Now, some of the ways that people commonly worship: music. One of the things I recommend is that you put together music playlists, things that help lift you up, things that help you when you're going through those dark times, to remember that you can rely on God, that you can rely on his strength, that help you to remember that hard times lead to growth. Gratitude, journaling on that, or just thinking about those things, giving that gratitude to God and knowing that He is blessing you. And even when you're going through hard times, if you really pay attention and look around, you'll see that He's continuing to bless you. A church attendance is another very common way we worship. Here's another one that a lot of guys get wrong or miss is fellowship. Ecclesiastes 4:9-10 says, two are better than one because they have a good reward for their toil. For if they fall, one will lift up his fellow. But woe to him who is alone when he falls and has not another to lift him up. You've got to surround yourself with other godly men to help support you through this. And you can get that through your church community. You can get that by being a part of our group in our community. You've got to have some of the guys who can help lift you up through this. Really, really important. All right, and then finally, you've got to take care of yourself. This can be really hard. And man, I don't know, there should be a name for this, like the separation diet or something like that. But it's very, very common with the guys that I talk with that they've lost 20, 30, 40 pounds in the matter of months because they're just not eating. They don't feel like it. But if we don't take care of our body, we can't show up in the best ways every day. If we're tired and we're hungry. When did Satan tempt Jesus? It was after he had fasted for 40 days and he was hungry, right? Satan knows when we're weak and he's going to try to attack us when we're down. And so it's hard, but sometimes you just got to force yourself. Sleep, eat, exercise, journal, do all the things that you need to do, take care of yourself. Now, I know I'm jamming through this real quick, but again, I want to give enough time for Chris to share. And then I want to, hopefully we'll have some time at the end to do some questions and answers. But at this point, and I would like to open it up to see if anybody's got some questions right now.
Well, the one thing, can you hear me, Nick?
Yeah.
Well, the one thing that stood out to me right away that I wasn't doing is fighting for my marriage and not with my wife. You know, I mean, that kind of hit me hard right there because, you know, her and I would argue or just not talk to one another. And I'm just looking at it in a totally different perspective because I'm fighting for my marriage and I need to do whatever I need to do to make sure that, you know, the marriage is whole, regardless what she does.
Right. Yeah, man. And that's a really big one is disconnecting. So for a lot of guys, and I know myself included, a lot of times our emotions and how we feel and how we act is tied to our wife and how she feels and acts. Right.
Yeah.
And so when she's struggling, we're struggling. And when she's doing well, we're doing well. Right. It's that concept of happy wife, happy life. Well, the opposite is true too. Right. If she's unhappy, we're struggling. And that the thing is that that's when she needs us to be strong the most.
Yep.
And so being able to disconnect from that and be that strength when she's having a hard time, responding in healthy ways instead of reacting in negative ways.
Yeah. Yeah, that really hit me hard.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that, man.
You're welcome.
Anybody else have some questions, some comments before we bring Chris into the conversation?
I'd just like to say that a big issue for me was or still is emotional support and respect. Of course, as fellows, that's what we demand as well. And no one
Right.
wants to be disrespected in front of other people, or sometimes her opinions don't exactly align with mine, and I just have to respect that and try not to challenge her in public or whatever. We can discuss those things, and a lot of trivial things I don't need to correct, or it really doesn't matter, because it's really sensitive sometimes to
Yeah.
do that, and the impact on her was much greater than I would anticipate. So that was just one little thing.
Yeah. Yeah. No, really good point. It kind of related to something Chris and I were talking about a little bit earlier today too. Like, there are times where they tell you to choose your battles wisely, right? Hey guys, give
Exactly.
me just a second real quick.
You gonna be okay? Huh? You sure? How are you lifting at work? Like, are you bending
How about
down
if I
and
unmute?
bending over? Or you
Um,
just walk?
so yeah, like you said, Kevin, sometimes we need to choose our battles wisely, and some things are just not worth arguing and fighting over, right? Um, Sometimes we need to make sure that we're picking the right time and approaching some of these things in the right way, because the way that we approach it, the the words that we use, the tone that we use, has a huge impact on how they respond. Because some things do need to be addressed. Uh, Picking the time and the place to do that is important, right? We need to be strategic about it. But
Absolutely.
yeah, you're absolutely right.
Be very, I don't know what the word is, but just be very cautious about sensitivities anyway, or
Yeah,
aware of them.
yeah. So one other thing I'll throw out there is the Bible calls us as husbands to love our wives. It calls our wives to submit and respect us as husbands. And there's nowhere where it tells us, husbands, make sure your wives respect you, right? Like that's their responsibility. And so it doesn't tell us to demand it. It just tells us to love them. Uh, that said, one of the things that I pulled out of, because I just didn't think that we were going to have enough time to cover it, was setting boundaries. Sometimes we do need to set boundaries around how we, what we'll put up with and what we won't, right? Like we don't want to become a doormat. We don't want to just allow for our wives to walk all over us. That's not okay. And so that's where boundaries come into play. That's where we tell, if there is a respect issue, number one, first off, we need to make sure that we're being respectable husbands, right? Somebody that is worthy of that respect. And if you're doing everything you can to be that man, then we do need to lay out some boundaries and say, I'm not okay with being treated that way. And so if we're in an argument and there's name calling, you can just say, look, I'm not going to go there. I'm not okay with being treated this way. Let's step away. Let's come back when we can have a more reasonable conversation. But yeah, really good point. All right. Anybody else?
And Nick,
Yeah.
you can't see me because I'm in the vehicle right now. But anyways,
Yeah.
so some of the
Witness
things
protection.
that some of the things that I've learned is that you have to go after the problem and not the character.
Yeah.
So whatever the issue is what has to be talked to, and not the character or the person.
Yeah.
And that's part of the boundaries and stuff like that.
Yep.
And that's one of the things that the counselors told me to do, is that you have to set up rules of engagement. So one problem at a time and certain things like that, not going after the character, just going after the problem of
Yeah.
what needs to be addressed.
Absolutely. And avoiding you statements and using I statements instead, right? So if you start a conversation with you never or you always, that's going to put up the
Yeah.
defenses automatically, right?
Oh yeah. Because that
Yeah.
puts them in a defensive mood.
Right. Right. Exactly. So our module called Fix the Communication dives into some frameworks around how to approach conversations like that in a way that doesn't lead to them putting up the defenses right away.
I know the
Yeah.
one thing that you kept instilling in me, Nick, was the fact that you can't control anybody else, but you can control yourself.
Yeah.
True.
Yep. And if that's what you focus on, that's where you have the most power and control.
That's
And
what
if you
I've been
focus
praying
on,
about.
if you focus on them and trying to control them, you're just going to be frustrated.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's what I've been praying on.
Yeah. Yep. And there's the serenity prayer, right? Is really good for that. Like, help me to focus on what I can control. Help me to give you what I can't, and give me the wisdom to understand the difference, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because a lot of times we assume we have more control than we actually do.
Those
I find
those
When
Nick, those prayers that I was telling you about, I still have to go through it and then write them down.
Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate that, Terry. So you know what I did is I went ahead and put those into a PDF. So everybody
Okay.
that signed up for this, I'm going to send out an email with a link. We've got a lot of resources on this, a lot of videos for you to watch. Got a couple of printable PDFs, some prayers that Terry had shared with me that you guys can pray over your wife and pray for your wife, pray for restoration in your marriage. So be looking for the email. Once this recording is done, I'll go ahead and send that out to y'all, and you guys will be able to go through that.
Nice.
So yeah, thanks
you.
for sharing that, Terry. All right. Well, without further ado, I'd like to first off introduce Chris. I'm going to try something I've never tried, and I'm going to click on Spotlight. All right. Are you guys seeing Chris?
Yeah.
yeah,
All right, you got Spotlight on. So Chris and I have been working together for a little while now. I don't know, a number of weeks, but he's gone through some real challenging times, and he's actually been married and divorced a few times. I'm going to let him share, some of his story, but the transformation and just this journey has been truly amazing. Nothing short of a miracle. So I wanted him to share with you guys kind of what he's gone through and what's helped him through this, and to give you guys a little bit of hope, to see somebody who's made it. He's not quite out of the woods, but he's certainly made it to a much better place than he was several weeks ago. So without further ado, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to ask Chris a couple of questions. First off, Chris, maybe you could describe a little bit about where the relationship was at and what led to you reaching out in the first place.
Well, the relationship was pretty much off. It was a big argument, and everything just went completely south. And it was ironic. It was about mid-June, I think, maybe early June. I was scrolling through, and I saw your thing on Facebook, and decided to reach out to you at that point. Knowing that after we've had multiple problems stemming around the same basic issues, here I was again in the middle of the same thing and still trying to figure out what was going on inside of me and what was wrong. And that's where when I saw what you had going on there, I just felt like, and I don't know, because I've seen a lot of different things, but it's like God led me to click on this and say, okay, let's talk and let's do something here.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that, Chris. And perhaps one of the interesting things is you had a couple of failed marriages,
Mm-hmm.
and you were at a place where you were content just being single. And this woman come along.
So I was married twice. Both of them ran off with friends of mine. The last one ran off and left me with the kids, and that's what I became a single parent. At that point, I was to the point in my life, it was like, well, if God created man and he was good, then why did he create women to screw everything up, right? And I say that in jest. But anyways, doing what I do for a living, I got contacted by this gal needing a pyrotechnician to do a show for her. And we started chatting. And then we just stopped talking for a couple of years. And well, she still booked me for shows and stuff like that. But then out of the blue, we just started chatting again. This was last year, about this time last year, in fact. And we actually just never seen each other face to face. But I realized at that point during those conversations, it's like, oh, I've got feelings for this gal. And we basically fell in love. I was purely content where I was at. I had no problem. I was never going to have any problems. And that was good. And here she come along and stole my heart. I call her my thief, but I say that love and reverence. But yeah.
Yeah. And then things started to fall apart.
Yeah. So I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, like, you were content being single, and then she comes in and steals your heart, and then you start going through this pain, and it's like, why, God, would you bring her into my life to have me just go through another destroyed relationship?
So, yeah. I can look back now and I can see where, yes, I was content being by myself, but there was issues in my life that had not been dealt with that were still even controlling my life when it comes to work relationships, friendships, things like that, even my own kids. And it wasn't until I entered into this relationship with this gal that it became very clear that there was unresolved things from my past. And basically God used her to point these things out to us, out to me. And, it's gotten really bad a few times. The last time it was pretty bad, and she's like, I'll never talk to you again. Slams the car door and, stormed off into the airport. And we've had a number of different things like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And that incident led to a period of time where it just kind of felt dark and hopeless. Right? What was that like for you? Because there were several weeks of no contact.
So throughout this whole thing, even when it was on again, off again type of deal, God never, let either one of us let go for the most part. But this last time, I thought it was truly done, and I was devastated. This woman is absolutely incredible, and in so many ways I can't even tell you. Realizing, because by the time this last episode happened, Nick and I had already been talking for a couple months. Realized there's a lot of stuff from my past, and it was still not done yet, and that's what led to our problems. and things like the lens of life that you look things through, not realizing things that happened in my childhood, especially with my mom. I had a very negative opinion about everything, and I also had the opinion that I had to earn her love. And it was funny because one time she said to me, she said, "Why don't you let God love you?" And another time she said, "Well, why don't you let me love you?" And I didn't realize that because of that past type thing, I had this mindset that I had to earn love, even God's love, and even held God at bay. And there is a video of me basically losing my temper and going off on her. I really didn't want to see it. I knew I had to see it, and I don't know why. I just knew I had to see it. And we all got on the phone with Nick and went through the video, and it was a very revealing thing. And one of the things that the Lord taught me is basically, in a sense, he's like, "See that guy right there? That guy's a total asshole, but I still sent my son to the cross for that man." And that's when I really started to be able to grasp that God loves me, and there's not one thing in this world I can do to earn it. And that was a real game changer for me right there. And then I also realized that she has the same kind of a love, and nothing I could do would earn. I even asked her one time, I said, "Why do you love me?" And she's like, "I just do, And I'm like, "Well, what do you want from me?" And she's like, "Just love me." And I couldn't wrap my head around it because love always had a price. And I tore my shoulder up. I went and got the platelet injection. I was on the mend, but in my mindset, I had to do things to earn her love. And she was coming out here to my place. And so I went ahead and finished remodeling a room in my house and moved a bunch of and tore my shoulder back up, and still is not right now. So paying the price for that. But
And you did all that work because you were trying to prove something to her.
I wanted her to be proud of me. I wanted her to like, "Hey, this is great. Look, look what you did." But she doesn't have a price on her love. So it didn't matter to her. And in her mind, she's like, we could have done this together and had a lot of fun. I'm like, well, we probably both would end up with a lot of pain on each other. But she's right. It would have been fun.
Yeah.
And I took it out upon myself, and then I ended up really tearing my shoulder up bad. And I don't know now if we can do another injection or if I'm going to have to get surgery. So.
Yeah. So, Chris, what would you say was the turning point for you where things started to go in a better direction?
I'd have to say the video. And I'm saying that because it was the video that I got for the first time ever to see what I looked like when I had lost control and was just literally just going off on somebody. I did not like it at all. I do not like the man that was in that. And it was at that point in time that I realized, because like I said, it was like God spoke to me, like, "Yeah, you see that asshole right there? But I sent my son to the cross for him." And that's when I really realized that, you know what? God was still loving me even through all of that. And it's funny because it wasn't hard to accept. I can't explain it. All my entire life I had to earn it. And this time, for the first time, I realized that I can't earn it. And
Yeah.
even after watching myself in that video, is when I really started to grasp and understand what a perfect love is. You know what I'm saying? That free, gracious love that God gave, especially, sending his son to the cross for someone like me. And that was a game changer in me.
Yeah. Yeah. And I agree. That was a turning point for you and for her, really, because she was able to start to see you in a different light. Not just that jerk that would, explode, but as somebody who was wounded and hurt and acting out of that pain. Yeah. And I can relate to that. And I know other guys on this call can relate to that too. Like I thought I always had to prove my worth, my value. And I did that through working hard, through, just getting good grades when I was in school, climbing up the ladder when I was, in the workforce. And man, it was like a never ending treadmill of just constantly trying to prove myself and always feeling like I wasn't enough. And anytime my wife said anything that sounded like that, right, even as simple as, hey, Nick, it'd be nice if you could help with the dishes, I would get defensive because what I heard was, Nick, you're not doing enough. Right. And then I would get defensive and I'd lash out and man, it was creating all kinds of problems. And it had nothing to do with her. It had everything to do with what I believed about myself and what I had to do to prove my worth.
So this is exactly what I was dealing with. My mom, we did not have a very good relationship at all. It was absolutely horrible. My mom is extraordinarily controlling, and there was no love. Deanna, my gal, she is not controlling, but she's a very strong woman. But she has love. The problem was, because of my past that had not been dealt with, when she would say something, I would instantly jump right into defense mode because it would be like my controlling mother. And that threw me right into defense mode. And then as soon as I got in defense mode, bam, I dumped everything on her, on my gal. I made everything about her. You're this, you're that, you're the, and she's actually none of all that. And it was crazy. So yeah, that was exactly what I was dealing with.
Yeah.
And was coming to terms with that past and turning that over to God. And it was at one point that I was dealing with an issue regarding my mom. It was like God spoke to me and said, Romans 5:8, God commended his own love that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. We couldn't earn that. And I realized that, and the only way I'm going to break free of the control of my mom, I guess, for lack of better terms, is to do exactly that. She's never going to earn my love. She's never going to apologize. She's never going to do anything. I'm just going to have to love her with a Christ-like love. And in doing so, I am now free.
Yeah. One of the hardest things for us to understand is to be fully known and fully loved. Right? Because a lot of times we don't feel like we're lovable as we are. And God fully knows us. And he fully loves us with a love that we can't even begin to imagine. I remember, Chris, when we dove in, it was in one of the first couple of sessions, we really dove into kind of the root cause and where that was all coming from. And one of the things that you said that really stood out to me, you said, Nick, you mean to tell me that for over 50 years, this has impacted the way that I've shown up in relationships? And it's hard to imagine, it's hard to believe that things from our childhood can impact us many, many years later.
It was actually our first session where something was brought out from my past, and it just kind of blew me away because I often recanted that story, and this time it wasn't even with my mom, but at any rate, I recanted that story, but I never had any idea the impact it actually had on my life. And then once I understood that the impact that had, that was a game changer. I mean, understanding that and the stuff from my mom.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
It was well over 50 years, by the way. More like about 56 or 57.
Yeah.
57, I think. But,
Terry, I see your hands up. You got a question or comment?
Yeah. Well, I got a comment. It's called past trauma. And it's something that I've been learning, that even when we are children, that any past trauma that we have when we are children, like my experience is my dad always yelling at my mother.
Yeah.
And then there was a hole. He punched a hole in one of the doors and stuff, in which, with being a child and stuff, I always felt scared because of my dad and that kind of led to the relationships and stuff too, and stuff,
Yeah.
especially what's going on with my wife right now. But some of that could be also contributed by the military too.
Yeah.
From what the counselors tell me is that we become passive or assertive or aggressive in the military and stuff like that. Most of us become passive because of what positions we're in, and then we get to that other position. I never made it to the other position and stuff, but that past trauma is the driving force of our experience for some of our relationships and stuff.
Yep. Absolutely. It has a huge
So,
impact.
so it's interesting because a counselor, a lady I had counseled with long before I talked with Nick, we started talking. Within about 10 minutes, she said, "You're military, aren't you?" And I said, "Yeah." She goes, "Yeah, because you talk with authority. You talk strong." And she
Mm-hmm.
said, and people that don't understand that about a military person, veteran, or whatever, she said, they'll take that as aggression or whatever. And
Yeah.
I've had to learn to, and it's an everyday process to tone that down because, people don't understand it. A veteran, a military guy, no problem, man. They get normal. Anybody else? Mm-mm. It doesn't fly. So yes.
Yep.
It's there was an incident at the last command I was at. It was the second class. He because I was always not really assertive and stuff. I would just sit back and watch and say what needs to be done and stuff like that. What needed to be done in that. Well, he was going off on a tantrum one time, and he was complaining about something, and I told him, "Wait a minute, you better hold up." And he's like, "Whoa!" It shocked him, and then after that, he listened, and then he calmed down himself because it was that he'd never seen me do that before,
Mm.
and it was just that I don't know if it was the boiling point or just the steadfast part of it. You know what I mean?
Can I chime in
Yeah.
on something?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, so you're talking about your childhood and everything and military, just growing up as a child with a father that was in the military,
Yeah.
was very, very challenging because everything was very regimented. It was very strict. Everything had to be a certain way, and it was hard. And, my dad, he never showed my mom love like
Right.
Jesus shows us. It was not a traditional marriage. The dinner had to be at a certain time. Everything was like clockwork with him. And it was just so challenging growing up as a kid in that house when you talk about a military aspect. So I wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah. Absolutely. Has a big impact
Yeah.
especially on how you handle conflict.
Yeah,
And that's
for
so
sure.
important because there's going to be conflict in a
Yeah.
relationship. Yeah.
Yeah. Because my dad expected my mom to have dinner on the table at, 6 p.m. every night,
Right.
always.
Yeah.
Breakfast, it's a certain time. I mean, everything was like clockwork with him. And it was just when I got to be a teenager, him and we had no connection growing up. And when I was a teenager, our connection just it got lost because I couldn't deal with it. Like I couldn't
Yeah.
handle that.
Right. Yeah. So you didn't have that model.
No, I did not have a fatherly figure model. He wouldn't show up to my baseball games, go to
Yeah.
my practices. You know, I don't know if he even ever told me that he loved me, you
Right.
know, and yeah, it was it was rough. Like I
Yeah.
want to say he was a jerk. He really was. But I mean, I
Yeah.
love him. Him and I get along great right now because I'm in a different season. Obviously, he's older,
Yeah.
but I've recognized how to deal with the way that he is because I accept it and I can't control it, like you said, Nick. And I'm
Yeah.
learning to control myself,
Yeah. Yeah.
honestly, because I'll tell him, I'm like, Dad, do that. Don't act like that. That's ridiculous,
Yeah.
and kind of put him
Good.
in check,
Right.
you know, and make
Yeah.
him really think about like what he's doing. But
Yeah.
yeah, when you just talk about the whole military thing, it was, and I'm not saying all military families are like that, but my military family was like that.
Yep. Yep. And again, has
Hey,
a big
Nick,
impact. Yeah.
Nick, doesn't the Bible talk about storms or seasons?
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
all the
absolutely.
time.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's what marriages go through are seasons
Yeah.
and storms. And each one of us go through our own seasons and
Yep.
our own storms, especially
Yep.
our wives when they get to a certain age because of that hormonal imbalance and stuff like that. That creates more of a massive storm.
Absolutely.
And
Yep.
for us to be more steadfast in acknowledging it, and that is more important than anything else, not to join the storm, but to just be there for them.
Yeah. Be the lighthouse in the
Weather
storm.
it with them, weather the storm with them.
Yeah.
Well, you don't want to weather it
Be
with
the
them. You want to be the lighthouse for them to go to all the time. Because if you weather it with them, you're going to be in the storm with them. And you don't want to
Well,
be
yeah.
in
So
the storm
not
with them.
if you're married to her, you're in it with them, whether you want to be or not. You need to be
but
that. You need to be
yeah,
that
what
steadfast person, but you are
that's
still
it.
weathering it to a degree. But you need to be you
Yeah,
need to be
you got to
the
understand.
calm in the storm. So don't I
Yes, the
mean
Yes.
calm in the
don't
storm.
don't take my statement out of context. When I reference that, I just meant that when you're together,
Yeah.
everything that you guys go through, you go through together, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
hence the term weathering the storm together. But
Yeah.
right.
Yep.
Anyway, okay.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing, guys. I got a couple more questions. So, Chris, maybe you could explain a little bit about kind of where you're at now and what that experience has been like.
So there was times in this whole thing that everything was very, very bleak, just totally hopeless. And there were days that I would get up, I would pray, I would spend some time in the Word, I'd pray, and I would just be emotionally wiped out and go lay down for a while, get back up, I'd read, I'd pray, I would, and again, just to the point that I couldn't even stay awake. It was very, very draining. And I kept telling Nick, I'm not giving up. I'm not giving up. I'm going to fight. I'm not going to give up. And I had to really rely on Christ's strength. And the whole time I'm sitting here scratching my head wondering, well, I wonder what's going on in her camp, not knowing what all is going on. But to keep it short and brief, God was doing a lot of work over there in their camp. And we're, we talk regularly, maybe almost too much, but and it's all good. We're on the mend. There's still work to be done yet. We're not together in the same place yet, because I think there's still work to do in both of our parts. But it was very difficult, and I just got to the point. It's just like, you know what, God, I give it all to you. I can't deal with this. I can't handle it. And it was really just emotionally wiping me out. I've lost 38 pounds.
Yeah.
And which I need to lose weight anyways, but just out of the blue, there were comments and things to be made, and it was just kind of like, oh, and that's when I realized that. And there was time I'm like, God, you got to do something here. I'm at my end. You know what I mean? Just totally at my end. And then some little teeny thing would happen and be like, oh, and it was just amazing, because God was, as much as he was doing in my life, he was doing in her life as well.
Yeah.
And, I made that choice to never give up, and it was difficult. It was very difficult, but the reward is, I know that we're going to have an absolutely amazing relationship. And it's like I told her, I want a Christ-centered relationship, period.
Yeah.
And where we're focused on him, glorifying God in everything we do. And she sent me back big smiley faces with hearts all over it when I made that comment. And it's just like, cool.
So one of the things that's been really, really encouraging is that she's seen something in you that she hasn't seen in other men in the past. And maybe you could share with the guys what that has been.
So I started this journey with Nick, like I said, early to mid-June, and it's been, I mean, it's been a grueling 3 months or whatever it's been, but it's been very worthwhile. And funny enough, that in a couple conversations, she made a comment one day. She said that, of all of her friends have had, guys in relationships, and their relationships went totally crap. The guys are all just totally jerks and blah blah blah. She goes, "You are the only man that I've ever known, any of my friends have known, anybody that has ever taken responsibility and yet is working to change himself and get himself squared away." And then in a conversation, and I didn't even realize, she made a comment. She said, she goes, "I could see a lot of change in you, because normally with that subject, you'd have gone off on me and you'd have been yelling at me and all that." And I'm thinking to myself, well, that doesn't even make sense, because I didn't think it was that big of a deal. And then I started realizing that God has been changing me, and he has been doing things, because actually that's happened a couple times. And I'm like, okay, I didn't realize that. But I mean, the things the tools that I've been learning here are now becoming like a second nature. And that doesn't mean that you can't slip up. I'll tell you that right now, you can. But and she's noticed a big difference that I didn't even realize.
Yeah.
At the same time, our relationship right now is long distance. And the question is like, how am I ever going to see any change when you're there and I'm here? And I didn't even know what happened. She's like, "Oh, I see all kinds of change." I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool." And that's 100% God working in both of our lives and our relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. So she slammed the door and said, "I never want to speak to you again."
Yep.
There were about, I think, 4 weeks, 4 really long weeks of no contact. And then she reaches out. And I think what can only be described as like a miracle, right? But during that time, you focused on what you could control. You focused on yourself. You worked on yourself. We worked through some of those root issues, some of the, the things that were leading to the anger and the way that you were reacting.
Mm-hmm.
And meanwhile, God was working on her.
Yeah.
And then she reached out. And since then, like I only see God's hand in everything that's unfolded, during this time, is that he's helped to show her the change. Yeah, go ahead.
I have a prayer request, and that is, I'll never pray for patience, because God gives you something to be patient about. I've already got that.
Yeah.
I just need to act on it, because I'm really excited about what's happening in both of our lives through conversations. And I'm excited about our future, because my whole vision for us is completely different than what it was. And it's more Christ-centered now than ever before. And I'm really excited. It's like, I'm ready to go. And apparently it's not time yet. And so I'm not asking for patience. I have plenty of patience. I just need to wait on the Lord. Whether he still has something to do in me, or he has something to do in her, or so, I don't know. But when he decides to finalize this, it'll be permanent. Yeah. He's working for a permanent solution, not a temporary. And in everything that's been going on, I can see that. And it's just seeing the God of the heavens and the universe working in your life and doing stuff is amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's exactly the pattern that I've seen, is he will work on you guys individually first. And then he'll work on restoring the relationship. Yeah. Chris, I really, truly appreciate you sharing your story with these guys. And I know that there's some guys on this call that are in that dark place right now, where it feels like there's no hope.
I'll tell you right now.
What would you say to them?
Don't give up. Don't give up. It was at those points where days all I could do is get up, read and pray for a couple hours and go right back to bed. There was days like that. And there was days I'd take like a 4-hour nap. I never set a clock, and just like, oh, wow, 4 hours. That's when Christ's strength in you is what's going to get you through it. I realized that I can't do this I can't do this without you, Jesus. You know what I'm saying? And I just had to surrender all to Jesus. Like, there's no way I can do this without you. I need you. And when I started to rely on him, lots of stuff changed.
Yeah.
Lots of stuff in my life, and even stuff between my gal and I. It also was like, wait, and I'm like, wow. But don't give up. It's hard. It is hard. And if you want to reach out to me on the school thing, that's fine. You know, I'll pray for you, whatever. But all I can tell you is, you know, it's a fight. The enemy is out to destroy. My gal is a very, very strong Christian, very well versed in the word, and he's trying to destroy us before we can ever get to the altar. And I'm not going to let that happen. I'm going to fight with everything that I've got. And but yeah, you hang in there, because God's going to make it worth your while beyond your wildest dreams. I promise you.
Thank you, Chris.
What you just said, Chris, reminds me of 2 Corinthians 12, 9 through 10. And that says, but he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power. So this is Christ talking to Paul. For my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, now this is Paul speaking again, I will boast the more gladly of my weaknesses, so that the power of Christ may rest upon me. For the sake of Christ, then, I am content with weaknesses, insults, hardships, persecutions, and calamities. For when I am weak, then I am strong. And what you said, Chris, is that you got to that breaking point where you're like, I can't do this on my own. I need you. Right. And that's where you admit and you accept your own weakness. That's when his strength can kick in.
You know, and there's 1 Peter 5:7, cast your cares upon him because he cares for you. When
Yeah.
I realized, and I've said it for years, God cares more about our problems than we do.
Yeah.
And it was in this storm, for lack of better terms, is when I had to realize he cares more about my relationship with my gal, and about her, and about us, and about me, and everything, than I do. And he's capable of working this all out. And so I just had to give it to him. And I was almost afraid to. It's like, it's not that I don't trust you, God. You want the best for me. So why was I apprehensive about, you know, surrendering everything to God? It doesn't make sense. But I mean, there was a time that I was. And finally I just got to the point. I was on a show. It was when I first found out about the video. I had a conversation with her that did not go very well. And during the show, I actually wrote a poem. It's very dark. But, you know, Nick had said many times about getting in touch with your feelings, and that's what that poem did.
Yeah.
But it was at that point, and on the way home, it's just like, you know what, God, I give it to you. I surrender everything. And I all the way home, over an hour drive, I just kept repeating, just, God, I surrender everything to you, Lord. And you know, I had to keep saying it. I had to keep telling. Maybe I had to hear it out of my own mouth, or I don't know. But it's when I got to that point, it's like I can't. And that conversation was very, very bleak.
Yeah.
But yet at the same time, that power of God in me, that the peace of God which surpasses all understanding, was there. You know, can't say I was happy, but I wasn't completely distraught and totally miserable. And I know that was God working in my life. And, you know, at some point he was just like, it's going to be, I got this, just chill, you know, but don't give up.
Yep.
And if you need to reach out, you know, we'll pray together. I'll pray for you, whatever, but it is a battle. It is a very, very hard battle. But it's well worth it. It's well worth it. Don't give up, guys.
Amen. All right. Hey, thanks again, Chris. I'm going to take that spotlight off and open it up.
My pleasure.
Anybody have questions for Chris or I after hearing that story?
Nope. Just, I mean, like, on my behalf, you know, I mean, my wife, she doesn't love me. She expresses that. But, you know, God's a miracle worker, and she needs some work in her heart too. So, you know, he can do changes in anybody if they allow that. And right now, she's not willing to accept any of that, but I'm going to continue praying for her every day, regardless
Yeah.
what happens. Because, I mean, God is good and God's working in me and he's making me a better me. So that's my direction right now.
Good for you.
Yep. And that's
Good for you,
exactly what you
man.
got to focus on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, David.
You're welcome.
There was a point in us where when after she had slammed the door, never gonna talk to you again. She got rid of everything, dumped all the pictures of us, everything. She was done, not interested. And then out of the blue, I get this text that had to do with weather. Of all the craziest things, I'm thinking to myself, why in the world would she do that? And that's when I realized that she hadn't let go as much as she wanted to, but there was still something there, I guess. And then God built from there, had built on that. But it was seeing me taking ownership and me working on it and allowing God to work on me and do all that kind of stuff that really got her. And she even just said, she goes, I'll tell you right now, she goes, this is the only reason I'm here. I'm seeing the change. I'm seeing what's going on. And it's because of my love for God. I'm still here. And it's, we pray together at night. So, we love each other, things like this. We're planning a trip here at the beginning of October to celebrate her daughter's birthday. We're all, and the funny thing about it is her daughter is an amazing gal, amazing woman. But she's a tough cookie. And I thought, boy, how am I ever going to rebuild trust and anything with her? And out of the blue, my gal says, yeah, she goes, my daughter's made the comment, wanted me to ask and see if you want to join us. And I'm like, out of the blue, where did that come from? And that's when I knew that God had been working on both of them. And it was just amazing. It's just, praise God. So I'm very excited, but yeah, don't give up.
That's awesome.
All right. Any other questions, comments, guys?
No.
I just have to say that you guys are a great testament to acknowledging who should be in charge here and get on your knees and let him do his work. That's awesome.
Yeah, sometimes, Kevin, we just have to get out of his way. Right?
I had to trust. That was my big thing. I had to trust.
Yeah.
And I've been a Christian for a lot of years and didn't realize that I was not trusting God the way I needed to. Yeah. And he revealed that to me in this, and you're 100% right. So it's not me. This is all God. I want to tell you that right now.
Yeah.
I'm just amazed at what he's done.
And the one thing not to forget is you grow through what you're going through.
Yeah.
With the love of Jesus.
Yep.
Absolutely. And Chris, what would have happened if you had given up during that period of time?
Wouldn't be where I'm at with her. We wouldn't be on the mend.
Yeah.
And there was times I felt like it. There's times like, you know what? I can't do this anymore. I'm just going to go get on a dating platform, or I'm just going to do this, that, whatever, and just, find somebody else. And then I realized it's like, no, I want the best for me. And God brought us together originally and cultivated a love that has kept us together through numerous times. And if that's not, and through each of these times that we've had all these problems, she's still here and she's still fighting for us. And if that's not true love, nothing is.
Yeah.
And that's, yeah.
And a lot of times we think that, you know what, I'm just going to walk away from this one. I'll go find another relationship. And the problem with that is that you bring yourself with you into that relationship, right? And so all the same patterns from the past relationships that made those fail, you're going to bring right in if you don't work through those things.
But I'll tell you something, guys. Don't think for a minute that never crossed my mind. So many times it's not funny, because it did.
Yeah.
And sometimes it was a battle to not let that in my head.
Yeah.
And I had to fight that battle. And I realized that battle, I can't it has to be fought with Christ's strength, not mine. The
Yep.
whole armor of God, Ephesians 6:20, the whole armor of God daily. Pray that for yourself, guys. Because it is a battle, and the battle is not, like y'all said earlier, it's not with the wife so much. But there is evil forces out there that are trying to destroy you, and you guys are on the way to becoming great men of God and strong men of God. And until you start doing that, the devil's just like, he don't care about you. The minute you start doing that, now you're a threat.
Right.
And it's, I pray for all you guys. I don't know everybody personally, but I pray for everybody here on this daily. It's tough. It's very tough. And it's only by the grace of God that I made it this far, because I'll tell you right now, there was times I even told Nick, I think I'm just done. I don't think I can do this anymore.
I told
And
him
Nick
the
is like,
same thing,
"What?"
Chris. I've told him the same thing.
Me
And
too.
he's like, "What?" And I'm like, and finally, after we get done talking, I'm like, "No, I'm not giving up. I'm sticking this out to the very end." And I did, and I don't regret it.
Yeah.
So, kudos to you guys.
Yeah,
Yep.
and the true
Up, Ethan.
blessings are going through these trials, and the result is you're having a better relationship, and from an eternal perspective, I think that's probably maybe the Lord's design is to put us to the fire and bring us through these trials, and
Absolutely.
the end result is a better relationship.
Yep.
With him,
Yep.
with him and our gals.
Yep.
Exactly. Yep.
Yep. It's all part of the refining process.
The enemy likes to think that it's winning the battle, but we know that God's going to win the war.
Yep.
Yeah, well,
we know who wins.
Yeah, absolutely.
We already know who wins, man. But it is a battle, guys. It is a battle, and I'm never going to discredit that battle. So hang in there, gentlemen.
And if you don't feel like you're under spiritual attack, then maybe you should ask whose team you're on.
Oh, I'm under some spiritual attack. I can tell you that.
Yeah, because like Chris said, like you're not a threat until he sees you turning to God, right? Until he sees you trying to build that kind of marriage that God designed for you. That's when he's going to attack.
When you have a hard time sleeping at night and you get 2 or 3 hours of sleep, the enemy is weighing hard.
Absolutely.
Full force.
Yeah.
So it's been crazy.
But if the man
guys.
if the man falls, the kingdom falls.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, just you know what, gentlemen, as you're working through and doing what you're doing, just remember something. If he can't get you, he's going to go after her. You got to pray for her. You got to keep that covering on her too. That's critical.
Yep, absolutely. So thanks for saying that, Chris. After this call, once the recording gets done and everything, I'm going to be sending out an email with a link into school. I know there's a couple of guys on here that I don't think are in the school community yet. Make sure you join. That's where I'm going to have, I've got a whole bunch of videos for you guys to watch, and some prayers to cover your wives, your significant others, all the stuff that you need to fight this battle. Also, we've got the paid course, we've got the coaching, we've got the group that we run on Thursday nights. And so if you guys are looking for some additional support, we'd love to help you through this process. I mean, what we do is we help men to restore their marriages because God hates divorce. He wants to see you guys work through this because he knows that you're going to grow closer to him through it as well.
Be better.
So we're here for you. We're here for you.
Thank you. Thank you,
All
Chris.
right.
And I'm a testament to how I've heard all this stuff before over the years, and I don't know what it is. It's just the way the coaching thing was presented. It made a huge impact in my life. It's for the first time there's been some really, really radical change, and it's all for the good, and it's all because of God. So,
absolutely.
Amen.
All right, guys.
All
All right,
right. Well,
guys.
thank you.
Thanks for joining.
Thank you, Nick. Yep.
You
Thank
got
Nick.
it.
Mhm.
Yep.
Chris.
Anytime,
God
guys.
bless.
And by the way, it was
Good
my
luck.
pleasure to share this with you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And yeah, guys, reach out if there's anything we can do for you.
All right. Thank you.
All right.
Well
All right,
done.
bye-bye.
Thank you.
All right, bye.
Have a good evening.
All right. Good night, gentlemen.